Imagine this. Archaeologists dig into a Viking grave in Birka, Sweden. They expect to find the remains of a mighty male warrior. Sword by his side, arrows neatly arranged, 2 horses buried for his journey to Valhalla. Every detail screams, this was a great war leader. But then comes the shock. DNA testing reveals the warrior wasn't a man at all. It was a woman, a Viking woman, buried with the full honors of a commander. This discovery shattered centuries of assumptions. Suddenly, the legend of shield maidens, women like Lagertha, who fought alongside men, was no longer just saga or myth. It was history, written in bones. Our character is not a single person, but an entire mystery. The Birka grave, unearthed in the 1880s. For decades, it was described as the resting place of a male Viking warrior. Weapons, horses, and a strategic board game for planning battles made it one of the richest graves ever found. Hidden in those bones was a story no one wanted to believe. This wasn't just a warrior, it was a woman who lived, fought, and earned her place in death among the fiercest fighters of her age. His grave challenges the way we see Viking history. It forces us to ask, who were the real shield maidens? To understand her, we must step back into the Viking world, around the 9th and 10th centuries. Scandinavia was a harsh land. Frozen winters, rocky coasts, and endless wars. Rome, an early age, both boys and girls were trained in survival. They learned to row ships, hunt, farm, and defend their homes. Sagas tell us of women who took up arms. Lagertha, Hervor, Freydis, Eiríksdóttir. While historians long dismissed these tales as exaggerations, life in Viking society wasn't neatly divided. Girl growing up in this world could learn to wield a sword as easily as she learned to weave. And if she was strong enough, clever enough, and brave enough, she could rise. For centuries, history erased her. When the grave at Birka was first excavated in 1889, the artifacts left no doubt it was a warrior's grave. Yet scholars immediately assumed the warrior was male. Why? Because the idea of a female military leader didn't fit their worldview. Even as women's bones lay before them, they labeled her a man. Textbooks taught Viking warriors were only men, while shield maidens were dismissed as myth. The problem wasn't evidence, it was bias. The injustice was not only to her memory, but to every woman who might have fought and been forgotten. The resistance came not with swords, but with science. In the 21st century, researchers returned to the Birka grave. They performed DNA analysis, expecting to confirm the warrior's male identity. Instead, the results showed XX chromosomes, female. Shockwaves spread through archaeology. Some resisted the findings, claiming perhaps the bones were mixed from another grave or the weapons symbolic. But detailed re-examination proved the burial was intentional. This woman was honored as a warrior leader. At that moment, she rose from the dust of time, resisting centuries of silence. Her bones fought back against the erasure of history. But imagine her own struggles in life. To rise as a Viking warrior was no easy feat. She would have had to train, fight, and earn the respect of her comrades in a male-dominated world. Every battle was a sacrifice, every scar a price she paid for her place among warriors. Perhaps she sacrificed family life, choosing instead the path of war. Perhaps she carried the burden of proving herself again and again in a culture that celebrated strength above all. Her very burial suggests she commanded respect. Yet, for over 1,000 years, her greatest sacrifice was anonymity, her story silenced by disbelief. And yet, triumph came, not in her lifetime, but in ours. With modern science, her identity was restored. The Birka warrior's discovery forced historians to rewrite what they thought they knew about Vikings. His was no myth. Women could, and did, fight. They could lead. They could be honored in death with the same symbols of strategy, strength, and honor as men. Their story changes everything. Suddenly, the sagas of Lagertha and other shield maidens gain credibility. What was once dismissed as legend may have been memory, echoes of real women who stood shoulder to shoulder with men in battle. Several moments define her legacy, her grave goods, weapons, arrows, horses, and a board game for military planning. Not tokens, but tools of a commander. Her DNA test, a silent warrior finally given her voice back through science. Her public reaction, centuries of belief shattered in an instant, sparking debates across the world. The sagas reimagined. What if Lagertha wasn't just fiction, but history remembered in story form? Each of these moments is symbolic, not just of her life, but of the fight for women's stories in history. Her grave is more than a burial. It's a symbol of resilience. It proves that history is not fixed. It reminds us that countless voices, especially women's, were silenced, but can still be uncovered. The legacy of the Birka warrior is twofold. She restores honor to Viking women of the past and inspires women of today to challenge assumptions. Her discovery fuels new research, new respect for sagas, and new understanding of Viking society. Most importantly, it teaches us that warriors come in many forms, and history must never assume without evidence. So, who was the Birka warrior? We may never know her name, but we know her truth. She was no myth. She was a leader, a fighter, a woman buried with honor among men. Question history. Look deeper than the surface. Ask whose voices have been silenced, whose stories dismissed. Because the Birka warrior teaches us this, sometimes, the most powerful warriors are not those who win the battle in life, but those who change history long after death. Her grave stood silent for 1,000 years. Today, it speaks louder than ever.